Well, I'm going to go ahead and just start going through some of the questions. And the first one is, do either of you use ICEV with Schoology? Um, Again, we don't have the panelists with us, but we'll go ahead and touch on it. We do integrate with Schoology, Google Classroom, Canvas, and several other of the learning management systems that are out there. We did have a workshop yesterday that you would be able to go back in and watch, and it will show you a lot about the integration. We will have some Q&A from that posted as well on the ICEV Inspired page. But I do think it gives you a lot of flexibility. You're able to take any of the assets that are in ICEV and place those in that specific LMS. So it does work from that scenario. What I will say is we've tried to develop ICEV as its own self-contained LMS, where you and your students literally can do all of your work within the platform. And there is a grade report that is in ICEV that allows you to navigate the grades. You can save those into an Excel document and upload those into many other grading reports as well. Next question is using ICEV for the CNA materials, and I'll pass it over to Megan.
We're actually going to have a CNA specific workshop with a ICEV user who is going to walk through how they use it within their classroom. So that would be something that I would recommend everybody to tune into if you are using ICEV for the CNA materials. Just to give you a kind of brief overview of what those are, is we actually worked with 2 registered nurses who now teach the CNA materials in a high school classroom, and they demonstrate the proper skills or the proper methods to complete those skills in each of our lessons. There's also projects and activities and hands-on demonstration projects that are required for the students to complete. So there is a whole curriculum that goes with that was created by health science teachers who are now nurses who are now in the classroom as instructors. So that's kind of how our CNA materials are structured. But there is the CNA specific workshop. I think it's called ACE the CNA, and that will be later on today.
That is at 12:55 Central for any of those that want to attend that. I know I've received a lot of really good feedback from the health science teachers because there is so much video content in that prep material, and it's very beneficial, especially in this distance learning world that we're kind of in. Question is, our district only purchased teacher ICEV access? How will each student be able to utilize the content? That's a great question. The student license are required for the students to access any of the streaming video content. You can certainly share the printable and the printable items, the activities and the projects. You can share that content, but to share any of the interactive work or the streaming video, you would need the student license. Those are $10. Those are just student seats. As a student leaves, you can replace one student with a new student, so you don't lose that that student license. But they are required for you to access the streaming video content and the interactive material. What certification do you recommend for principles of health science? That's a great question for our panelists, and we'll get that in front of them to answer. We do not have that specific certification for principals. Megan, anything you want to add there?
No, really using the CNA materials for that. Some of the certifications that we do test for on ICEV that might be helpful might be the professional communication certification, but again, that's going to be more of soft skills. So those would be applicable to any career that students would go into, but not something that's really health science specific right now is tested for on ICEV.
Thank you. Here's a great question. How do you increase rigor in ICEV? A lot of what I have seen and hearing is fill in the blanks and matching. So Megan, I'll let you touch on that as well. It's a great question.
So you're correct on there is a lot of fill in the blank and matching portions, but those are going to be in the interactive activities. So that's what the student license component has with it. And those would be self-graded for you. Now, in addition to that material, within each lesson, there's going to be activities and projects that are in the printable session or section, and those actually are more hands-on and can be collaborative in group projects or labeling projects, or where students have to write research papers or do readings or things of that nature. And so the printable area is where those more rigorous projects would really be located. Just some examples of that from like a health science standpoint. If you were wanting students to create a short video, just for instance on the CNA material, if you were wanting the students to video them completing the skill, that type of project would be within the printable area. And also just some ideas that we shared yesterday in some of the pedagogy workshops, making sure from a distance standpoint that any of the projects and activities that while a student may be doing it in a traditional classroom as, you know, just writing their research paper in class, making sure that you could use a collaborative software, so a Google Docs, or using OneDrive with Microsoft so that they could have Word online and everyone could see that. So making sure you're using those collaborative softwares in a distance learning environment when using our printable activities and projects. Those are just some suggestions for helping with increasing rigor.
I also will add, from your course page, you are able to create a custom assessment. And that allows you to take any of the vocabulary, any of the short, you know, fill in the blank, or the assessment questions and pool those together in a larger assessment. You can do that by lesson, or you can combine multiple lessons. But in that custom assessment piece, it also allows you to create your own questions. And I think you can add a lot of rigor by creating your own questions, change the style of the questions, and really customize it to best, you know, fit what your classroom looks like. So I would also make that recommendation as well. I think the last question would be, what courses do you recommend for medical microbiology and practicum, CCMA? I'm not sure what our options are there, but I'm going to pass it along to Megan, and maybe she can also talk about some of the things we are developing that's on our production roadmap.
So currently we do not have those course offerings. I do know that medical microbiology is something that we're looking at creating here in the future. Really, once kind of school gets started, we're going to really try to finalize that production plan. As with most people's plans, starting back in March, things definitely changed. And that's no different for kind of our production roadmap that we had. A lot of our time and effort had to be put into adding the integration pieces that you all have seen either in the integrations workshop yesterday for Google Classroom, Canvas, and Schoology. And so instead of adding new courses, we were really working a lot on that integration piece. And so really starting in the spring is when we'll probably have some new content and kind of a little more solid framework for what our production plan is going to look like. I know for sure medical microbiology is something that we are looking at, just don't really have a target date for that particular course yet.
I think that that wraps up our time for our Q&A. As Megan had mentioned, we will take any of the additional questions that have been asked. We will answer those and have our panelists answer them as well, and place those into the CTE certified page that we have. And I know Megan has got a code that you guys are going to need. Maybe we can put that in the chat, but if you want to read that off as well, that might allow them to get their credit for attending the workshop.
Yes, so the credit for, or the code for this workshop is Health Use 046. So HEALTHUSE 046. And you're going to want to make sure that you put that in the CTE Challenges tab. That's going to get you points for the challenge, but more importantly, it's going to make sure that you get credit for this session for PD. So thank you all again, and look forward to answering your questions and getting those out to you.
Thank you very much.